All right. So, hello, I'm Bojan. This is
Hi.
Gabriella. Together we are Mixanalog. And this is the 20th webinar that we've been doing now every 2 weeks for some time. And what we do on these webinars is we introduce the product and tell you about anything new that's happening in Mixanalog and Dystopic. And you guys can ask questions whenever you like. So, assuming you don't have them right now, we'll do some introductions first, and then, let's see, I think we already have some comments. Only one side of the speaker. Yeah, let me see. Really doing this for the first time, so. Okay. Oh, mono. Is this better? I think now we should be on both speakers. Also, Gabriella, do you want to just test the mic just so that we know that you can be heard as well?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's the international testing signal right there.
Test.
Great. Okay, so hello again, guys. Sorry for all the pauses. What we will be doing today is we're gonna show you Mixanalog again, just for some of those guys who haven't seen it yet. We're gonna have an interview with Gabriella, who is my co-founder of Dystopic, and I know you guys haven't seen her yet, and now she's with us, so we'll be able to talk about that. There's also some news on the Gyref G24, new hardware, some more info on the loops metering and volume controllers for tape machines. We're also going to talk a bit about the Studer, and I think most of you guys got an email from us of, what was it, yesterday or the day before? Yesterday, about a poll about what you guys are, who you guys are and why are you using Mixanalog and so on. So we're also going to talk just a little bit about that as well. Nah. Yeah, she guy's a bit different looking than Gabriella, that's true.
Well, he's busy in the studio this week, so I jumped in instead.
That's true.
And so Bojan thought it would be nice to introduce me to the whole community, since I'm full-time on the project now.
That's great. Let's actually capture a bit more of you. Here we go. Yeah, you can move a bit. So let's see if this works. It does. Wow, great. Okay, so for those of you guys seeing Mixanalog for the first time, let me find my window. All right, this is what it looks like when it's already open, and you can twiddle the knobs and so on. But before you get there, the first thing that happens is when you come to our webpage is you come here, you read about all these wonderful things that Mixanalog can do, and then you wanna jump right into it, and this is where you would click Enter Studio up here. You click that, and then you get it inside this part, which is loading for some time. All right, where you see all of the sessions that you've reserved, but if you haven't done any of that, then the only thing you'll see is this giant green plus over here, which is what you use to reserve a session, because Mixanalog is like a real studio. It just lives on the internet. So you still need to reserve a session, you still need to book it. Only one user at the same time can use the same part of the studio. So we click this and come up to this wizard where, like if you come to a studio to work there, you have to bring your files on a USB stick or something like that, or you upload them to Dropbox or something. This is the same. You can select some files either from your Google Drive, Dropbox, or from your computer, upload them, and when you've uploaded the tracks that you want to work with, you go over here to select what kind of gear you want to work with. Here we have our brand new and currently still free to use audio destruction unit, which is a tube saturator. will be using this today. So you can click any of the other ones. You get a bit of info about what kind of machine it is, a picture, and so on. So let's say we wanna use this one. You click select, and then here you have to have some pretty good idea about how long you want to use it. Is it like 15 minutes, just bounce a quick vocal track, or are you gonna do more tracks, or gonna take some more time? In which case you select more time over here, and then you click a time slot that you like. Let's say 4 o'clock would be a good time for me to start, and I'll be doing, I don't know, 2 tracks, so I think half an hour is enough time. Now I can keep my time pretty well, so I don't want a confirmation mail, and it says, okay, so half an hour will cost you 60 tokens. You can you see how many tokens you have up here. You start with 300, and you can always get more by clicking top up here. So you click reserve, and here you have another reservation that's waiting for me at 4 o'clock, so in about 1 hour. And in the meantime, I can still go back here if I forgot to upload any files and upload them here. But this session, the audio destruction unit session, is already happening, so we'll go and use this one. Now, I haven't set any monitoring here, so we'll be doing this completely blind. So I have no idea how bad this will sound, but let's try anyway. So you've got this giant play button here, which does what you would expect it to do. It plays back the audio. Before you do that, though, you can select which one from the list here. I'm selecting this one, Everybody's Falling Apart, which is the indie sample that we preload into every mixanalog account. So it's an unmastered indie rock mix of a song, and yeah, you can use it to play around with all of the different gear. Because it's unmastered, then you can do quite a lot of crazy things, get some ideas on how each gear sounds and so on. So as we click play, the audio will go from that file and through, well, it should at least. Oh, it's demos. Demos never work. Unfortunately, let's refresh it. So this can happen. If it does, I guess we should just refresh, and hopefully it'll work this time. The thing is, we've fiddled a bit with the audio settings on this computer. So since nothing is happening at all and I don't get any error messages, I think we just have a routing problem on our computer. Yeah, that was it, I think.
Hopefully the users on YouTube still hear us. You hear the sound as well?
Yeah, it seems like something is happening, but I don't think it's happening the way it should. Though, in general, what should be happening is you guys should hear the sound, and you can use these knobs to adjust it in real time. So I guess what we'll do now is when you twiddle around with these knobs, the sound changes around, and when you found the setting that you like, you just click bounce over here, and then because this is real analog here, it takes the exact amount of time that the source file is. So if it's 5 minutes, then it will take 5 minutes to bounce. So as you click bounce now, it will take the settings that you've set up on the gear, and it will process the whole track from beginning to end with those settings, and you'll get it in the sample rate that you choose, and it'll be a 24-bit wave. And after that's completed, you can download the file. So that's pretty much what I have.
That was a really nice overview of the mixanalog.
Thank you. Let's see if there are any questions already. Let me just find the correct window though. Dum dum dum. Facebook is messing it up, maybe. Yeah, sorry. Having internet issues from this end as well. I feel you, Timo. It can be annoying. But anyway, so here we are. I think that's all that we'll do with mixanalog right now. So if you guys want to check it out, go to mixanalog.com and book a demo session. So we've got a first question already. It's the issue with 20 seconds left pop-up messing with the bounces. It shouldn't. It has no logic whatsoever, so it must have been a coincidence. The only thing it does at all is just inform the user that it's about time that you pressed bounce, and if you don't in the next 20 seconds or so, then you won't get a full bounce, because let's say the file is 4 minutes long, you have about 4 minutes 30 left. So if you're still gonna twiddle for 2 more minutes, then there will not be enough time in the session to make a full bounce, because as we said, 4 minute song is 4 minutes bouncing. So, but yeah, it doesn't do anything else. It just informs you with a pop-up. So anyway, after the presentation of the product, it didn't go exactly as planned, so sorry.
Well, the overview was really nice, just
Thank
something
you.
with the sounds, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something I'm using Catalina now because as a software guy, I need to stay up to date.
So you've probably seen all the memes about it, so yeah.
Yeah, all the memes there are quite vicious about Catalina, and I've had a pretty okay life with it so far until today, when I decided I want to stream. That didn't go well. I had lots of issues with audio routing and with permissions for various capture software and so on. So nothing works out of the box. You need to install everything with administrative privileges and mess around in terminal, and then it works or not. Right. So going on, as we've now taken a look at mixanalog, I'd like to continue by speaking a bit with Gabriella. So, as we said, never seen her before, but she's actually been with us for 7 years now, I think, in the background.
Yeah, we are celebrating our birthday, 7th birthday on Friday, so yay!
Yeah, we're getting older, wiser, successful-er.
Yeah,
I guess.
Bigger, definitely bigger.
Yeah, there's more of us now, so that's really cool. So, I'll be asking you a few questions about yourself so that you can be properly introduced to our viewers.
Cool.
And so, first, I just want you to tell us a bit about yourself. Are there any things that you'd like to point out about yourself, what you're doing, and what kind of interests you have, stuff like that?
Well, my background is in mathematics, and I used to do a lot of jobs connected to mathematics, a bit of like pure mathematics, and also combining with computer science. I did a lot of software testing in my previous jobs, so hopefully this is something I can contribute to mixanalog, so you guys will encounter less bugs in the future. But I'm also an educator. I work with talented kids in mathematics, in logic, problem solving, linguistic problem solving skills. So this is something I also hope to contribute to mixanalog. Hopefully improve some of the user experience, the way software works, maybe make it a bit more intuitive, easier to onboard and things like that.
So we're getting a lot of
And of
stuff.
course I love music, but we'll talk about that a bit later, I think.
I might ask you about music. I might. So that's great. That's a lot of things that mixanalog needs right now. More stability, less bugs, and make it a bit easier for a variety of people from all different parts of the world and different skill of English, different kind of background and so on to be able to use the software. Also, some people have been using, I don't know, plugins for 20 plus years. Some people have been using analog gear for 20 plus years. Some of them have been using none of that, are just starting out now. It's just been a year or so.
So it's really important
yeah.
that we have a product that
that
everyone.
takes care,
Yeah, exactly. So if it's not too hard to use for people who are in audio, maybe just for a year. And of course, not too easy or too boring for people who are in it for 20 years.
So yeah, that's great. So we heard about this, large picture, about onboarding, about making it simpler, about making it less buggy. I think though that you already are working on some very concrete things though. Might not be directly connected to that. So what are you doing? What are you working on right now?
So my main goal right now for mixanalog is to add some more communication with you guys, with the users, but also trying to find a new audience, trying to find new users, finding different contacts at the magazines who would write something about us, maybe some YouTube reviewers, but also just communicating with you, sending you newsletters, sending the updates, making the guys take more pictures when they develop something so we can post them on Instagram and YouTube. But then of course, in the previous few months I helped Bojan with redesigning the UI, so the booking process is a bit more intuitive now, and I think there will be other changes in the future which will make things better for you. And there are other plans like making some more beginner tutorials, better onboarding, but of course all of this takes time. Even if we have like a huge list what we want to do, the day has only 24 hours and we still need to get some sleep. So, yeah.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah. So if you see a lot of likes on Instagram and in Facebook, that's probably me doing it. No bots.
Yeah, there's no bots. Just humans here. So, all right. And since, of course, mixanalog is all about music, and all of us here that are working on this for the past 2 years and so on, we're all either producers or musicians or something like that. So we're all deeply connected with music professionally, or at least, avid listeners of stuff. So coming to that, what about yourself? What's your story with music? And what are you listening to? What's on repeat in your playlist these days?
Well, I would love to be all of this, musician, producer, engineer.
There's a list.
About 10, 15 years ago, we had a small garage studio, and this was really, really fun to do. But then my professional path took me other ways. So yeah, I don't do any of that right now, but I still know how to set up the microphone, so I was connecting all the wires today.
Gabriella helped with the setup today.
But yeah, music-wise, you probably wouldn't guess by my hoodie that I'm actually a really enthusiastic metal listener. So yeah, on my playlist right now is Floriansen, and I can't wait that Nightwish releases new album. But yeah, I'm listening to her extensively right now. She was featured in a Dutch show, Beste Zangers. So she did a lot of great covers there, and these are on my playlist on repeat right now. And really looking forward to go to the concert next year to Netherlands. So if hopefully maybe I'll see some of you guys there as well. That would be really nice.
That would be cool.
So I see there's a lot of comments in YouTube now. So let's see what everyone said. Yeah, rock.
That's great. So going on, I think I've asked you everything I've had prepared as questions. So I'll be moving on with the next topic, which is new gear. Everyone's favorite topic, new gear. So what do we guys have in store for you, and when is it coming out, and so on? Let's talk about that. And we actually have a little thing that came in just today. Let's see.
Yeah, so we wanted to say, we just ordered something, it will come in tomorrow, but it surprised us a few minutes before the show. And
post can actually arrive before it's supposed to. That happens. So anyway, DHL, thank you for being quick this time around. And what we have are some nerdy things for our next release, for our next hardware. Oh well, I'm not really good at tearing this up. Anyway.
We have to practice on some opening videos.
Yeah, let's do that.
Unpacking videos. Yeah.
So here it is, where we have, it's a box from GLC PCB, and these guys have sent us a badge, but I'm not sure that's
Let's
what
see
we
what's
wanted.
that.
But
Just some promo material. Cool.
More importantly, this is now, let's see, does it say anywhere on it? Because it has a new version. Oh yeah, I don't know if you guys could see it. Yeah, it's version 1.1 of our automation PCBs. Now, these have quite a few interesting adjustments made to them, and they are here for new gear that we are very excited to finally be pushing out very soon. Is the Gyro G24 that we've been talking about already, and it's a passive compressor, and we wanted to really do justice to it. So we've made an order up these new PCBs to make it really, an effective and
as you can
true to the source design.
As you can see, there's a huge stack of them. This is a really good news because it means that we found a way how to generalize the automation, so it doesn't have to be per each device separately, which will hopefully save us some time, and we could roll out new gear more faster than we did until now.
Yeah. So speaking about it, the Gyref is now progressing. Now that we have these, PCBs ready.
We are also almost finished with the graphics, aren't we?
Yes, and we'll be showing that now, I think. So let's see, this is mixanalog, but in the same browser I should have open this, which is the graphics coming up for the next, for the Gyro G24. So they're already quite finished. We still have to do the VU meter and some overall maybe brightness and stuff, but I think it's already coming together very nicely. Still gonna put a few logos of Gyref and Dystopic on it, but this is the next release. This is what it's gonna look like, and it's gonna be pretty interesting. Just look at all of those knobs. You've got two side chains there that you can blend between, an elliptical filter, lots of different modes, and yeah, in general it's passive completely throughout, and it only goes, there's only active circuitry in it if you enable it, and that's only for makeup gain. So a really interesting machine coming to mixanalog, really something unique. It's been on Sound and Sound now, a very good review, and also being nominated for the best hardware release of this year. So hats off to Jakob for making such an awesome device, and also for providing us with one so that we can put it online. Hopefully this won't be the last Gyref stuff that we put online. We have mad respect for Jakob.
Yeah.
So
and it's really great working with him because he helps us with the, so we didn't have to draw all of this. He's sending us the logo and meters and all that, so he doesn't have to do, it's really great collaborating with him on this, on putting his machine on mixanalog.
Right. So next up, I've seen some questions already pop up in YouTube chat, and we'll get to those. We'll just wrap up on the Gyref, and then we'll
let's do that.
So
besides the graphics and the PCBs, we also just today we ordered 1,000 relays. That's a huge amount. I expect, so they come on a how do you call it, on a tape, something similar, like
cut tape.
Cut tape. So we are expecting something like this size. So 1,000 is a really huge number. We won't need them as many for the Gyref, but we are stocking up again to speed up the process, so we don't have to wait for each single delivery. And of course, mass mass orders, also lower costs a little bit. So that's really nice as well.
Yeah. The important thing though is,
So you wanna say anything more about those relays?
yeah, just that having them, so many of them available on tap, will just make it easier and faster for us to do new gear. So we're already looking forward past the G24. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that's going to happen that I can't talk about, but the LA2A is one of those that I can talk about. So there will be an LA2A coming to mixanalog, and will be a stereo unit, and it will have different optical cells to choose from. So there will be a fast, a slow, and a vintage cell. The vintage one is an original 70s Uri cell, so it's going to be a really, really interesting release. It's going to happen sometime after the G24. And the relays are partly for that, and partly for a few other projects that we can talk more about, but also a new Pathfinder. So there will be finally enough Pathfinders for us to go on and make the feature that everybody's been clamoring about for a long time. Thank you for kicking our asses a bit about it. It's the routing and the bypass and so on. So these actually require a bit more hardware than we initially thought. So now it's up to us to make it and finally be able to then do the software as well. So those are our next steps with this huge relay order. It's already mostly accounted for. So I guess we'll have to do another one not so far in the future if everything goes well. All right. So what I'll now be doing is take a look at the questions.
Yeah, let's see what everyone
we
wrote
don't want to
in
keep you
YouTube.
waiting, but we're super excited to just jump into the content that we've prepared. So yeah. Okay.
The question about the ADU?
Yeah, it's a question about the ADU and about the dual mode knob, which has a confusing 1-0 mode, like what is 1 and what is 0. Right. Okay, and then there's another question or suggestion. It would be nice to have a percent indicator for dry and wet level, and when the big red power LED is turned off if bypass is active. That's a pretty cool suggestion. Thank you. About the question first, let me just go back into mixanalog. Yeah. So here the dual mode. It's actually a bit of false logic, I guess, on our part. So sorry. Sometimes we are thinking a bit in a special way. I guess this must have been one of those. So dual mode, when enabled, just for us, it means one knob is driving two channels, right? So one knob is dual. It's driving the left and the right at the same time. So it's doing two things. So it's dual. When the dual is off, then you have this functionality split, and each knob is controlling one parameter, just one channel. So that was the logic behind it. I'm hoping it's not too confusing. If so, I guess we could, it's easy for us to flip this logic if it turns out that would be a more logical choice. So yeah, just let us know in the chat if that's something that you guys would like to see, and if so, then we'll, of course, we're not beyond changing that.
Yeah, it's always great to hear comments from you like that, because we might think this is usable and this is understandable, but then, because also we work on it for months, but sometimes when someone sees it for the first time, it might not make sense. So it's great to hear the feedback on it.
Yeah. So moving on to the question and suggestions, the analog chains to be assembled as you like, yes, within each Pathfinder. So what we're looking to do is have some gear hooked up to one Pathfinder and some gear hooked up to another Pathfinder, and then for each of those have a limit on the amount of users that can use it at the same time, and then just mathematically prove, which Gabriella can help us with, that there is no combination of gear that you can make that would be impossible with the number of computers. sorry, with the number of components. So you could always, if you've taken on one Pathfinder 4 units, you could arrange them in any order, and someone else using the same Pathfinder could arrange his units in any order, and you would never influence one another or come into a situation where it would be impossible to move a unit around. Because right now, the way things are hooked up, that's possible to do, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't done it yet. It was a bit of a chicken egg problem. It's like, do we make the hardware more complex to account for that, or do we make the software more complex in terms, and also in terms of like disallowing certain combinations, just saying to you, you can't do that. And in the end, we just decided, yeah, let's just scale it down a little bit, do more hardware, and then everything will just work, and there will be no nasty surprises. So that's kind of the motivation on why we are doing it this way. So within one Pathfinder, you'll be able to make any combination of the gear that you can book. I hope that's a good enough explanation, if not just write in the chat. All right. Cool. So moving on, there's more things that we have in store for you. Yeah,
there's still quite a list, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been exciting 14 days since the last webinar.
Due to new people, no doubt. Lots of new energy in the room.
Well, I've been behind the scenes for quite some time now, but yeah.
True enough.
So another thing we want to talk about is loose metering.
That's the way to pronounce it, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what it is. You've tried to explain me before briefly, but I think now we have time so you can explain it to me properly. Oh, okay.
I think we're back.
I hope we're back.
Still having those internet connection problems. We're just going to try not to touch anything. So let's go back to this view. Hopefully it'll be okay. So anyway,
all right.
You were saying?
So I was asking about loose metering. So what is it? Can you explain it to me and to others that might not know? Or I hope I'm not the only one.
Sure. I'm quite sure there are actually many more people in the planet who don't know or care about loose metering.
We already have a lot of meters on mixanalog, but we're adding another one. So what's this one about?
This one's about loudness. So it's going to measure loudness units, and it's there because quite a lot of people have found out that normal, like regular metering that we had before, not just on mixanalog, but on like mixing consoles, on software and so on, all of those meters were mathematically precise in telling you what the level is, meaning how much the speakers excurse and how much air they push. But they didn't tell how loud it was perceived to be.
Right. So these are the meters about the perceived loudness.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, if I gave you 4 recordings and you would say this one's the loudest and this one's the least loud, then the quietest, then what would be kind of the scale where you would, if they all metered on regular meters exactly the same, or even, in a different direction where the loudest one would actually meter to be a bit lower on regular meters, then you need something else that's appropriate for saying, this one's the loudest, this one's a bit less loud, and so on.
So this is really important with new regulations about loudness wars and things like that. Yeah.
Very true. So the idea behind this is to regulate just how much loud music and commercials and movies and so on are, and how it will be perceived by an average listener. What are they going to think about it? Is it going to be louder or not, and how much? And for that, there's a bunch of math and DSP to be done on the signal. It's not just simple like taking a level of how much air is going out, because that's actually simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound that way, but it is. But this is much more involved. So they've had to write a whole bunch of research papers for that math to come out. And now we have it. And now all of the industry is running to implement it, and ourselves included. I'll just refresh this page just in case, because we're not seeing any new comments come in, and YouTube is complaining about some connection issues. So hopefully you guys are still getting this while I refresh. All right. So
Yeah, I hope we're back.
I hope we're back. The warning went out, so I
Okay.
think that's a good thing.
Right.
All right.
So yeah, we made a poll for the Lux meters. So did you want to talk anything about the graphics, the chosen design?
Yeah, sure. So it seems that changing over the meters on mixanalog. So let's just go quickly to mixanalog and talk about where and what is being changed. So based on your feedback, guys,
Did you switch so they can see the screen?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
perfect.
I did. Yeah. Gabriella
See,
did
that's my tester instinct.
yeah, Gabriella did a
Let's
lot
check.
of software testing, so that's a good thing though. So anyway, you see these meters on the left upper side, below the mix analog sign. It already shows you RMS and peak meters, and that's great, but it's not the whole story, of course, as we just spoke. RMS, which is kind of the average amount of energy being expelled by, oh, yeah, we just finished this session. Okay, so let's make another one quickly so that I can talk about it. Let's take the Fairchild for a spin. So yeah, the meters here on the left, below the mix analog label, you've got the peak meters for left and right and the RMS meters for left and right. And what we'd like to do, just a very simple solution, is to have a switch at the top here that will change these guys over to loose metering. So you'll be able to change between RMS and loops. And
I imagine we are not showing all of them to not take too much space and to still leave enough for the devices, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it just seems cleaner that way. You probably don't want to see RMS and loops at the same time anyway.
Yeah.
And we'll be adding a graph here in this section where you currently have the devices kind of a signal chain thing here. We'll be replacing this with the graph of the loops value over time, so that when you push play, you'll be able to see how the loops value is influenced over time, what kind of movement it makes. It just makes a lot of sense when you're doing some sort of mastering or even just mixing, to know not only what the absolute current value of loops is, but also how it's moving over time. You know, what's the dynamic range of the loops value and how is it shaped. So those are the changes that kind of won right now.
So when do you think the changes will be released and the users will see them?
I'm working hard on having them ready this week. So if already, yeah,
very nice.
Yeah.
Crossing the fingers.
Yeah,
Yay.
let's hope it'll be done this week. So hopefully no more surprises with various machines going haywire or any sort of weird software stuff to fix. But yeah, assuming everything works out, we're going to push out the loops metering somewhere at the end of this week, and it'll be just this simple switch to loops for RMS and a graph to show the loops over time. So I just wanted to comment on the poll. It was very close. A lot of people couldn't decide that much between, like, we couldn't pick a very clear winner. So I think what's happening here is we have to put this out, and then you guys will be able to say, oh, okay, so this is how it works right now. Now I can comment on what I'd like to see changed. So if your favorite didn't win, or if you have now further comments, like on how the loops metering should change in the future, it's not a set in stone. So we just are going to make this first iteration, and then if you guys will have some feedback, send it our way.
Yep.
We'll improve that, and can't wait to actually hear some first impressions from you guys on this implementation. So I can't see any new questions, so I think we can move on. We've done the loose metering thing. I think now we can talk about more exciting hardware things that are also happening about this week-ish.
So we are adding new volume controller for the tape machines. So I know we already have volume control on input-output unit. So why do we need a separate and this time hardware volume control for the tape machines? So
Right.
what's the reason behind it?
So we're talking about these controls over here, I think. Do we have the screen set to mixanalog?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so on the I/O unit at the top, this guy over here, if I change these knobs, I'm changing actually the volume going out to the analog gear and the volume coming back
Yeah.
from the analog gear to the meters and my to the file, to the balance, and also to my monitors. So your question was, why do we need
Additional one, yeah.
additional ones?
Which
Right.
we are making right now, right?
So most of the machines already have some sort of input or output gain control. For example, the Fairchild has an input gain control over here, and the ADU that we saw before has an output control, and for example, the Gyref also has an output control down here. But some of the things that we're using these days as kind of effects that were never meant to be as effects, but in particular tape machines, they don't have an input-output gain usually, or it's calibrated at some stage and then it's supposed not to be changed. So the other units have this ability to manipulate volume in an analog way, and tapes don't. So when you have a combination of just the I/O unit here, which actually is now called the digital controller, so the converter control, this one does all of the gain adjustments digitally, and that's not good enough for us.
Sure.
So we wanted to give people more control over it. Also, in the future, when we're gonna have chains that you can make yourself, what we just spoke about, adding the second Pathfinder and so on, you'll run into a situation where you want to run some device hot, like with a lot of volume, and the tape coming after it, you don't want to hit as hard. So you want something in between the previous device and the tape that will adjust the volume.
Yeah, makes sense. So it might not be as useful now that the tape is in a single instance, but combined with other gear, this will be really good to have.
Yeah, and you can also think about the AD and DA converter, the Burl mothership that we use. It's also a analog device in some way. So when it's making signal that goes into the tape, it's actually converting into analog. So it's kind of an analog device. But especially when the signal is coming from the tape back into the computer, it's analog because it has an analog input that can be driven. So more volume that you put into the AD part of the Burl mothership, the more you're affecting its sound and its performance, and you might also be clipping it.
Yeah.
So we need something that sits between the tape, which can't have an adjusted output volume, and the Burl mothership that also doesn't have an analog way of adjusting volume. So there has to be something in between that the user can adjust so that they can drive the tape hard, but then not hit the Burl mothership as hard, and to avoid clipping if they don't want this.
I see.
So long story short, we want some analog volume control, and we need it so that machines can be more happy together.
So Telefunken already has this volume control, but we're not just making another box of that one, but actually making a different one. So what's the difference?
Well, it's been one of the first machines that we've done, like way back when we were still just developing digital control of analog gear. It was one of the first prototypes that we just kind of...
Oh, so this is still that one?
Yeah, it's still
from
that
years,
one.
years ago. Oh,
That,
wow.
that was ages ago.
No, I'm
and
really glad to hear that it's still working and doing well.
well, about that.
I guess that's the reason why we are making
That's
another one
definitely
as well.
one of the
Yeah.
reasons. It's not been super stable for us. And also, it was made back in the time when we just wanted to see digital control over analog signals work. And we weren't so concerned with performance yet. That came later. So later we like really refined the performance a lot. And now the time has come when seeing as also as how tape is very popular on mixanalog, that we should really go into making all of the components of mixanalog behave really well. And the volume controller is kind of holding us back because it's an old box that was done with different design principles, with different technology, and it's not so stable and it's not as performant. So we want to make it more performant. In analog, that means more headroom, less distortion, less clicking noises. And in software terms, it means just more stability, less problems when it crashes or it stops responding and stuff like that.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. Applying the knowledge we learned in all these years and making it better and more stable. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's kind of the theme of why we wanted to do that with the volume unit. All right, so I don't see any new questions yet, so let's go on, see what else we have in store for you guys. Now, where did I put that?
Well, since we were just talking about tape machines, I've heard a lot of cursing here in the office about the Studer.
Yeah.
So what's the story behind it?
Well, the Studer was a gift from GIRF Audio's founder, Jakob. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he saved it from the...
Yeah, from just being...
What's the English word?
Thrown away, I guess.
Yeah. He saved it.
It's
and we
saved
were really
from the
happy
garbage
that he
bin.
did that, but yeah.
Yeah, we're super happy about
But apparently it was a little bit damaged.
Exactly. So it wasn't. So it's probably the machine has quite a bit of a story behind it. We don't know for sure, but it's seen some rough times. So when we got it, we restored it, did a lot of work on both the electronics and the hardware parts, and it worked pretty well, actually, very well. So when we released it, we had a lot of users using the Studer, and it was kind of stable, no problems to speak of, clean heads, nice performance. But eventually, like a week or so ago, I think maybe even 2 weeks ago, it started like hanging up more and more and crashing and not responding to computer control and so on. So, you know, at first you restart it, try that, it works okay for a day or two, and as the frequency went up, we figured, you know, there must be something that's more wrong with it that we didn't catch on our first pass. So yeah, we opened it up. Now, after it was crashing almost like by the minute, you put it back online and someone made a bounce and got halfway through and the machine just crashed. Why? What's happening? So we got around to opening it up and found out that someone at the factory actually put a chip in, like, in a really weird way. So a pin was bent on it and didn't really make a full contact.
Like half soldered?
Not actually even soldered, so it goes into a socket. But normally a pin goes into the socket. This one was bent, so it went along the socket. So we're just touching the socket a bit. That's enough to make a connection for like regular use every now and then. But the computer inside the Studer, which is a 33-year-old machine, so it's a very old computer, still has enough logic to know that it hasn't received a command or hasn't received a response from another part of the unit. And you have two computers inside, one that controls the motors and one that controls everything else. And those guys didn't communicate. So the message was lost somewhere in between, and what the main computer decides to do is to just, you know, shut down the operation and nothing works anymore until you shut down and power up the machine again. So,
And
yeah.
I assume the cursing stopped, so I assume
Right
the
now,
problems
yeah.
were solved.
Right now we are, I think, 99% there, meaning that it's a lot more stable. We've only
Right.
seen one crash since then.
So maybe there's another chip
Maybe there's
loose
another chip.
somewhere there. Yeah, okay.
Could be anything. You know, hopefully there will be no more nasty surprises and it'll just work from now on. But I'm really happy with that we found this problem and solved
Yeah,
it.
we have to thank our engineering guy. Yeah.
Elvis
Who's
is
in the
over
other
there.
corner of the room. I'm really happy.
Yeah,
We'll get him on the camera one day.
one day.
But
You'll
he
see
said,
Elvis.
he said not today.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's it with the Studer, right? It was a bit of a rocky ride with it, but I think we got most of the bugs out, so it should be quite okay.
Yeah. All right, so the last thing we had prepared for today was just some quick comments on the survey we sent out. So a big thank you to everyone who already participated.
Thank you.
The survey will be opened one more day, so tomorrow afternoon we will announce the winner on the Facebook. Yeah, we will send the email to the lucky user so he can tell us the username and we can award the tokens to them. But overall, it was really, so we skimmed quickly through the comments, and it was really great to hear all the positive comments. It's a really great vibe. Lots of support from you guys and girls, I suppose, as well. Yeah.
I think so.
I hope so. I hope there's not just male engineers and producers out there.
Well, there's a lot,
Yeah.
but I think it's changing.
Yeah. But of course, there were some comments, some issues raised, and maybe Bojan, you want to comment on one or two of those right now?
Yeah, sure. Actually, first things first, I was really interested by the diversity in the survey. So I really wasn't expecting so many different countries to have users of mixanalog.
We
We're
thought
like,
half of it will be, I don't know,
Yeah,
United
half of it
States,
States,
and
half of
quarter
it
of it
Europe,
will be
yeah.
Germany, and the other quarter will be United Kingdom, and that's it. But it was really nice to
yeah,
see.
it's
I don't know,
extremely diverse.
30, 40, maybe even 50 countries up on the list.
A lot, yeah, a lot. I haven't even like done a proper count, but just eyeballing it, it's over 30, maybe even over 40. Yeah, you're right. So, so that was really interesting and impressive to me, is that we can reach that many people and that many people
In that many places.
Yeah, so many people from different places, are interested in mixanalog. So that was just really nice to see. Also, we had quite a few comments from you guys that kind of, some of them repeated.
Yeah,
Lots of them were very positive, but we kind of found a few things that we I don't think
So
were
one of them was question about subscriptions versus pay as you go.
Yeah, currently on the mixanalog.com website, under pricing, it says, it only speaks about subscriptions. But of course, I don't know, I think many of you guys who have been with us for some time, of course, know that you can buy tokens, just one-off, pay as you go. But I think kind of by not mentioning that explicitly on the mixanalog.com page.
We got quite a few people confused about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're really sorry about that. That was not our intention.
Yeah, that's our ball dropped, I think.
Yeah.
It's like we should be careful about that. I wasn't really, thinking that it would have such repercussions, that if you don't mention that, people won't even try the service. But it's a good lesson, I think.
Yeah, true. But why we are pushing subscriptions is because you get some discount if you subscribe instead of just pay as you go. So this is why they're mentioned in the first place. But for those of you who don't want to subscribe, yeah, you can always just pay a certain amount of and then use them whenever you need to.
Yeah, tokens don't disappear.
No, they don't expire.
They don't expire either if you buy them or if you just get them through a subscription. So, they'll be there for you. Okay.
Right.
Anyway,
And the other thing that really popped out was so what will happen when you have too many users?
it's an age-old question.
Yeah.
By now, we've heard it so many times, but I think it's worth
Yeah.
reiterating.
So a lot of people are concerned there won't be any slots left and you would have to wait for days to get your slot, but
Hours or.
but what's actually the plan?
Well, the plan is to just really build up the service as fast as it's required. So if there will be more users, we'll definitely get more hardware. We have enough contacts in the industry, enough, let's say, an enough survivable business model that I believe if there will be enough users to really push the availability of mixanalog gear, we will have enough disposable income to go to the bank and say, we need 10 Fairchilds, all right? We need 10 Fairchilds yesterday.
Yeah.
Help us.
Or in other words, by then we will earn enough
Exactly.
to easily duplicate the racks of the gear we have. And just, so you'll have,
So
there will be always something available, yeah.
So the name Rack 1 kind of is a tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Was already kind of implying that we have a Rack 2, Rack 3, Rack 4 in mind. And it's
True,
a place
yeah.
that we'd also like to get to. So, it'll be... We would be happy to take on that challenge. So, yeah.
Yeah, but that's also my role, isn't it?
Mhm.
To reach out to more users,
Get them.
to find more people who would love to use the service, and and when we're up there, then we can talk about Rack 2 and Rack 3. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's it. What we wanted to touch on from the poll. So maybe if you have any questions, any additional questions right now, you can
we
mention
can
them
go
on,
take a
on
look.
the YouTube. Yeah.
Are the Studer tape speed controls still in the pipeline? Yes. So now that the Studer is behaving better and that the volume units are, in the final stages of being developed, we didn't say when they will be deployed, but actually Elvis is putting on the final touches on the PCBs. So I think 3 more days of his work, and we'll be able to test the volume controllers, new volume controllers. They're assembled.
And then we just have to add the graphics.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I'm working on actually. I started yesterday. So it should be just like a week maybe or something like that when the volume controllers will be online. And after that's done, that's actually the next thing to do for me on the Studer is to, assuming that it's still stable and there's no bugs to fix on it, is to unlock the tape speeds and the bias controls. So that will, of course, mean a new UI, but we already, I think, said a few times that this one is a temporary one. So we'll start with a new UI after the volume controller hits, and after that's done, we'll be happy to add tape speeds and bias settings to the Studer. All right.
I guess we'll wait a few more seconds if there are more questions, because there's a minute or two delay from what we speak and what goes live on YouTube, right?
It should be just a few seconds,
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
it should be.
Okay.
But I don't think I have it set up correctly right now. I think with Giga it also took about 3 or 4 tries, or even more maybe, before we kind of figured out the streaming thing. And then I just found out today that
it's not as easy as it looks.
well, not only that, but I just didn't figure that I didn't remember the way he set it up, because he set it up, not me. So I was thinking, yeah, sure, it's just this and that, and then menus open up and there's just settings everywhere, and you're like, okay, so which one's the correct one?
Yeah.
This one or that one? Or and then of course the Catalina thing is also a bit incompatible.
Maybe.
So, but
yeah. Thank you for all the comments and suggestions, and we hope we didn't miss any of the questions. If we did, just please contact us directly
Yeah, just write a
either via
comment.
YouTube or on the emails, or in the chats.
So yeah, just write on Facebook, write on YouTube, send us an email or in the chat on the page, and you can drop off any questions or suggestions there.
Yeah.
But I think we do have a question here. Speed control being more important than bias on the Studer. If bias not set. No, so regarding bias and the Studer tape machine, we just calibrate it. So it's set on default, but the Studer has three different, I think it's three. Yeah, I think it's three different preset slots or, I don't know, spaces inside it for different bias settings. And then you can tell it to switch between them. And as far as I know, we always set it to the same one, and we always calibrate that one according to the manual. So it should always be the exact same bias and the exact same tape speed. So if the sound of the tape of the Studer changes over time, that's because of the tape being tape. So of course, when it's fresh, it sounds like the first day, it sounds really different than it sounds the next day, and then it's kind of the same for a long time, and then it falls off again and starts being different. So anyway, we do the calibrations, and we don't change the bias and we don't change the tape speed. But it's good to know that, of course, the tape speed would be more important for you guys. But I'm just going to throw this in, is that when we change the UI, we're going to have to order it from the graphics company, which means that, every change is going to be more money. So we just want to do it once and do it well. So we're going to do both the speeds and the bias settings in one go. Doesn't make sense in this case to do it step by step. I think there's more comments here. Yes, exactly. Yeah. It has different presets for exactly, because the Studer was used as in an environment where you could have different tape formulations, and then you would want to load up a master from 10 years back, you would have to use a different bias setting than if it was like a very, very young thing that you just recorded. I'm talking about 20 years ago, but when this was new, that was still a thing, that the tape formulations changed over the years, and then this machine had this nice advantage that you didn't have to recalibrate. You could recalibrate once for one formulation, then once again for a second formulation, third time for a third one, and then you could just change with a preset on which calibration you want to be. So it was extremely, advanced tape machine for its time. Really kind of the best one regarding features that we've seen so far. And with that, I think...
Should we wrap up?
I think we should. So,
thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It will be Giga again on the next webinar.
No, we could
instead
vote
of me in this seat, or maybe we could do like 3 of us.
Maybe.
But yeah, you'll see me again if Giga is busy or if Bojan disappears somewhere. Bojan would love vacation, I think.
I could have that.
But we are not letting him go, so.
Damn it. No, it will be a very interesting next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So with the gyref scheduled and the volume controller scheduled and the loops coming out. So super exciting time for us, and hopefully for you guys too. Yeah. All right. Until next time in 2 weeks.